Willie Geist, what do we have going on with the White House?
Well, they're trying to figure out this immigration and whether it ought to be tied to funding for Ukraine and Israel. The White House Democratic lawmakers are considering whether to provide new powers to the Biden administration at the southern border in order to gain Republican support for passing foreign aid. Two sources tell NBC News the changes may involve new migrant expulsion powers and an expansion of the migrant detention and deportation system. Republican Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina said yesterday negotiators are still working on specifics. He called on the Senate to stay in Washington until an agreement is reached. We'll see how that goes. But pro-immigration groups dubbing the possible framework as, quote, Title 42 on steroids. Let's bring in White House correspondent for Politico and co-author of the playbook, Eugene Daniels. Eugene, good to see you. Probably wishful thinking to ask Congress to stay in town. They're scheduled to leave for their recess later today. But where do these negotiations stand, and how open is the White House really to some change in immigration policy?
I mean, the good thing for folks who want a deal done is that the conversations are still happening. There was earlier this week where there were concerns that they were just too far apart and nothing was going to happen. We reported today at Politico that Chris Murphy, Kirsten Sinema, James Lankford were continuing negotiations last night and meeting with top administration officials, including Alejandro Mayorkas, who is the DHS secretary and has a lot to say on this matter. And so they're continuing to have those conversations. So that's one. But the administration has, as you said, signaled that it's open to making it harder for migrants possibly to seek asylum, making it easier for the government to expel them. And you are going to continue to hear from folks on the left, and not even the far left, just folks on the left and within the Democratic Party, that this is not what they want to see. And especially when you tie it to getting more aid for Ukraine and possibly some Israel stuff thrown in there in this deal, they are saying that the White House, that Democrats are going to look as if they are selling out migrants and people of color here for this foreign aid and these other deals. And I think, we had some fresh polling today in Playbook that suggested that, it might be good for the administration to get something done here on the border, that more people in this country seem interested in having a little bit tougher restrictions at the border, right? People can talk about whether or not that's good, what that actually means for us as a country. But these Blueprint is the group that did the polling, basically telling the Biden administration to look at the center of this country as they head into 2024, and that politically it might benefit them. I will say from the very beginning, President Biden has been open to something on the border on this deal, and so Republicans saying that they haven't been is not true. When he originally sent the supplemental request, more money for border was actually in there.
So, Peter Baker, I mean, there's certainly a real policy debate as to what to do at the border, and certainly there's a cry from most that something needs to change there. But let's talk a little bit further as to what Eugene started to go, which is of the political part of this, where there is some suggestion that maybe for swing voters, it would respond to Joe Biden, would approve of Joe Biden taking a slightly tougher line at the border. But by doing so, he would risk potentially turning off the progressives, the liberals, those on the left who are already pretty disenchanted with a number of things he's done, in particular his handling of this Israel-Hamas war. So talk to us a little bit more about that dilemma this White House faces.
Yeah, it's a fraught time for President Biden when it comes to his relationship with the left, in large part because of the Israel-Hamas war right now, obviously, as you rightly say. And a lot of the younger Democrats who are the key to him winning again next year, if he's going to win next year, are turned off by that and are turned off by other things as well, turned off by his age. They don't believe he understands their generation, so on and so forth. They're not going to necessarily go over to Trump. It's not like these young liberals are suddenly going to become Trump voters. But the question is whether they're going to turn out in the numbers that President Biden needs them to turn out. And so, yes, you're right. There's a risk, depending on how far he goes on border security in terms of alienating his own base. At the same time, you're right that the crisis at the border has been of such a pronounced way that it has hurt him with the voters in the middle, that hurt him with some other Democrats who want to see him taking some sort of action, and not what Trump did necessarily, but some sort of action to make the border more secure. This is such a complicated issue, and to tie it together with Ukraine is another area that has been of criticism for the president. by tying them together, because he's the one who originally said in his supplemental request to Congress to add more money for Ukraine aid, he's the one who said, let's add some border money as well, therefore marrying these two very complicated and very different issues into the same sort of toxic stew. A lot of Democrats are unhappy with him for doing that right now, too, because it's complicated enough to find a border compromise without also having it tied to this urgent need, and as the administration expresses it, for more security for Ukraine at the time when Russia is waiting in the wings.
Yeah, you know, a few things, Willie. First of all, you have Democrats, that Democratic mayors, Democratic governors, Democratic senators. You have a progressive Democratic senator in Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, saying we've got more people at the border now than we have that live in Pittsburgh. Yeah. There is an understanding now that there is a massive crisis at the border. Why progressives think allowing that massive crisis at the border to continue is humanitarian at any level is just absurd. It's just as absurd as people thinking that you should let people just live on the streets in February in New York City and freeze to death, and somehow trying to get them into shelters is inhumane. That's unfortunately what an extreme element of the Democratic Party believes. There were, Barack Obama caught a lot of grief back during his presidency. He was called by many on the left the, quote, deporter in chief. Yeah. It did not hurt him. And I must say, as we bring up on the show repeatedly, before Donald Trump got into office, illegal border crossings were at a 50-year low. They spiked the second Donald Trump became president of the United States. So this is an economic issue, but you talk to the voters that matter in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona. They, along with most Democrats, want to see order brought to the border.
Yeah, as you say, this is not a crazy right-wing talking point. This isn't a Fox News narrative. Ask the mayor of El Paso, Texas, if there's a crisis at the border. It's there. It's real. Democrats, many of them do recognize that. And it's something I think the president, we were talking earlier to Jen Palmieri about this, the president and his campaign understand that this is an important issue to Americans, too. So perhaps that's why they've come to the table here and say, let's figure this out, especially since the Republicans want to tie it to Ukraine.